Hello and welcome to Prime Time, more specifically to another edition of the Mentor series, where I'm in conversation with a professional who's established himself or herself firmly in the area of their chosen passion and done very well for themselves. And I'm absolutely thrilled and delighted that in this episode, I'm joined by Nandini Shrikent. Nandini is one of the most sought after casting directors in films and series in this country. And she's cast some of the most popular, memorable, and iconic shows ranging from Made in Heaven to films such as Zindagi Na Milega Dobara, Gully Boy, Thappad. The list goes on and on. So without much delay, let's welcome Nandini. Nandini, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So Nandini, I want to start, sort of take you back a little bit and tell us a little bit about your growing up years, your childhood, and your influences during that time.
So I was very fortunate. My brother, who you know, and I were both very fortunate because our parents really introduced us to the arts, not with any plan in mind, but just films, theater, musical performances, classical music, both Indian and Western. And we were just talking about it the other day. So that really helped shape my understanding. I mean, I later realized that when I was reading a script, I got the nuances because I'd seen so many films and so many different sorts of films and read so many interesting books and watched so many plays over the years. It just helps. We lived in 4 different cities as I was growing up: Bombay, Bangalore, Calcutta, and Delhi. And that also gives you a lot of cultural exposure. I think that really helps. You're not just, what's the term? Kuwe ka daddu. So the more you move around, the more you understand about humanity in general.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
It's lovely to have had that kind of exposure. So, and then, tell us a little bit about when exactly the film bug bit you specifically, or was that not how it started? How did you sort of get drawn into the industry, so to speak?
So this is also very connected to my family life, because my mother joined this very small organization called Cinemaya, which promoted Asian film cinema, which is not Bollywood, but Asian film cinema. Now we have exposure to Asian film cinema, but this is 25 years ago, where it was difficult to watch a Wong Kar-wai film or a Zhang Yimou film. And they started a very small film festival that grew and grew and grew. And in fact, a lot of filmmakers in Bombay today say that they got very influenced by the cinema they watched at these Cinefan festivals. I was one of them. I got very influenced. I really enjoyed that. My mom would get me I remember Iffy used to be in Siri Fort in Delhi. My mom would get me a pass, and I'd watch 5 films a day and then come home and weep because it was a lot of emotion. And so I decided, I couldn't think of anything else I wanted to do but work in film. It wasn't casting there.
Yeah, which is what I was actually going to come to, because clearly your passion sort of developed and lay in film. So how did the journey begin? Because casting isn't, it's quite a sort of niche skill, and a lot of people who want to work in film, casting isn't necessarily the first avenue or channel that occurs to them. So how did that come?
So I meandered into it, to be honest, because I reached Bombay, and everyone who starts in film, or not everyone, but most people say that they want to direct. But that's a very generic thing, actually. I mean, you have to be a team leader, and it's tough. It's very hard. And it's possible, but it's not an impossible dream. I mean, I have so many friends who make wonderful films. But I started understanding the process of filmmaking, and I was an assistant director that led me to work in the art department. So I've been all over. And then one day I went in for a job interview for the art department, and we chatted about cinema films. And the producer said, why don't you try this job in casting, because it's open right now. And it was summer in Bombay, and I was like, hey, being in an office as opposed to running around in Crawford Market sounds very appealing. So that's what I did. Yeah. And then I loved it. I enjoyed it. And it was a very slow journey. It's not like I started casting. My first film was Lakshya. And it's not like I got 100 jobs after that. I got like one casting job a year. And then it slowly, gradually sort of took off 4 or 5 years later.
Right. Tell us, there are lots of youngsters who are passionate about film and they feel very strongly about it, but they don't necessarily even understand or comprehend exactly what casting is. So, at the cost of asking a very silly question, explain to us what exactly it entails.
Yeah. So, no, I love explaining what casting entails. The punchline is it's finding the right actor for the right role. And so you get a script and you sit with the director and they walk you through what they're looking at, who they're looking at, and what sort of people not sort of people, but what they're looking at in their script to play out their, sorry, I'm fumbling a bit, for the roles that they've written. And then we go back to the drawing board and look for the right actors who work for the roles and fit the vision of the director. That's the word I was trying to remember. Yeah. So that's what the basic thing of casting is. And then, of course, the job involves a lot more groundwork. Do you want me to go into that right now? Or?
Yes, please. Yeah. Absolutely.
So we have a database, and of course, we watch a lot of obviously watch a lot of cinema and watch a lot of theater, and try and keep up with this constant influx of very, very good actors that are constantly coming into the scene. And then we have auditions, and we audition every speaking role in the script. And each audition can go up from 20 to 60 actors can come in and read for the same role. And then they shortlist the actors, and then the director, the final call is with the director in collusion with us. We chat and talk about it, but the final call is with the director and the producer sometimes. And that's what happens. That's the basic crux of what happens.
Nandini, I've always wondered and shed some light on this. So, as a casting director, does it vary from film to film, or is it one sort of particular thing where when a casting director such as yourself comes on board on a particular project, are you casting all speaking roles, including right from the main leads downwards?
So very often the lead cast is already in place. And for example, if you're working on a Shah Rukh Khan film, once he's on board, the finances for the film get worked out because he's such a bankable and saleable star. Right. And then we do all the other speaking roles. Sometimes we work on a film where we cast the leads as well, like say a new pair, or we just sort of do all the groundwork for the director to get everyone on board. And sometimes we only cast the leading lady, so it differs. But we don't cast stars. That's the bottom line. I always say that because it sounds nice, and I'd like to say, yeah, we cast all the stars, but we don't. Our job is the speaking roles of the film. Yeah.
Okay. And I know correct me if I'm wrong, but the entire casting process has in the past perhaps half a decade or decade or so become a lot more professional and transparent. Perhaps it wasn't like that earlier than that. So now, for somebody, okay, let me ask you this before I ask my next question. What do you find most satisfying about your job? I mean, what is it that sort of, what is it that satisfies you about the entire casting process?
I always say this when I'm watching a film that we worked on. I'm delighted when an actor does a good job on screen, and it doesn't matter how long his screen or her screen time is. It could be one scene, it could be two scenes. That doesn't matter, as long as they keep their performance on point. I'm delighted, and that's what really makes me satisfied. So sometimes I come out feeling delighted that the role of the watchman who had 3 lines, but he's done them so well. I'm so proud, and I leave feeling proud also about that. So that's the job satisfaction, when you see it all coming together and it's worked. Yeah.
Do you ever encounter a situation where you're casting somebody fairly well known or well established and they're reluctant to audition?
Yeah, it's changed over the last couple of years because of OTT platforms. Mm-hmm. And and the different sort of roles one goes to actors with. But in the past, I've had even not very famous actors, but just actors senior in terms of the time they've invested as actors in the industry, getting very upset about it. And there are some actors we just don't have to audition. It's quite a relief that we don't have to ask them. And but it's changed over the last couple of years. People have become a little more open to it. But earlier, like when I started, when I did my first film, Lakshya, that was 2003, I think. Around then, it was pretty unheard of. It was pretty unheard of. Very few companies actually hired casting directors. Most people had their assistant directors do the casting. And yeah, and I want to go back to what you said about transparency, because I think that sort of good and bad side to every part of the industry still exists. Mm-hmm. It does exist even today, I'm sure. I just never got exposed to the dodgy side of it. I just landed up working with really good people, really good films, quality productions, quality scripts, so that was my trajectory. Okay. But yeah.
All right. And tell us a little bit about whether there's a lot of difference when you're casting a show for an OTT platform as opposed to film. What I also want to specifically know, if you are at liberty to even talk about it, is that, for example, when you're casting an OTT show, is there a lot of interference or involvement from the platform, almost like a studio?
So even in film, there's a lot of involvement from the producers, and the OTT platforms are producers in a way. Films have a pretty standard format. 99.9% you have your stars in place, or someone who's a bankable person who's leading this film, and then you cast the rest of the film, and then they shoot and they release. With OTT, with shows basically, with series, it's they are very keen. Most of the time, the platforms would be very happy if you brought a star in, and that is the old tradition. But they're also, after a point, for example, in Made in Heaven, our lead pair, Arjun Mathur and Shobita, are not like, they're very good actors, excellent actors, but they're not superstars in that sense, in the Bollywood sense. And they still are leading this show with the other key actors, Shashank and everyone, Shivani, Raghuvanshi. So there's Kalki and Jim. They're all fantastic. It's a ensemble of excellent actors who are leading the show. So that does happen. They would be happier if you have someone bankable, because that is the old tradition. And everyone has worked in film and come and worked in OTT probably, So there is that sort of connection. Sometimes there's a bit of sometimes, see, we always say the director has the last say. So sometimes on shows, it's the showrunner or the platform that has the final say. So it's for us, it's the same thing in a way. It's a conversation.
The nomenclature is different.
Yeah, exactly. The conversation is the same. The discussion is the same, and they always involve us. So that's pretty good.
Okay. Yeah. I'm also very curious, and this is actually one of the main questions I wanted to ask you. How did you, or how does somebody who wants to get into casting, develop the sense of sort of picking that right person? How do you develop that sense?
Yeah.
Because it's such an intangible sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it comes from watching a lot of cinema. Like I said earlier, watching a lot of cinema and reading a lot, and just watching a lot of performance that helps you connect an actor to a role. You put it very well. There's this innate sense, this sort of sixth sense that comes in, and it's not always there. I mean, I often get things totally off, and then they're like, no, not this person or not that actor.
Right.
Or sometimes you're watching a film and you're like, oh gosh, what did we do? But 99% of the time, I'd say it's just following a particular instinct that you've developed by making a lot of art and culture accessible to you. It just helps you understand stuff better. And you've got to keep up with the cinema of today, especially Indian cinema. And I'll say Bollywood. I don't have an issue with the word because then you know what's happening. You know what's happening.
Right.
You know what's working. And
Right.
casting is really not about just the stars. It's about all the other actors that build that team that is finally the film that is presented to you. And so it's important to see who, what, where, when, and how these people are being presented.
Couple of more questions that are coming immediately to my mind, if you don't mind me asking. Yeah. So in your outfit, sort of how many people do you have on your team? If you can, talk about that a little bit.
Good question. I have, before the pandemic, we had a very busy and thriving office because we were doing about 5 to 6 projects, and each project had about 2 to 3 people working on it or working on multiple projects. So I think we had about 8 people in our team, a very good support system. I also have a casting partner. His name is Karan Mali. We work together now. So we get credited together. We started working. Our first film together was Tumhari Sulu, which was in 2000 and I think it was 2017 or 16. I think it was 2016. We worked together in 2016. Yeah. But it released in 2017.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And so since then we've worked together, and so our team has grown. It's become very bountiful because there are 2 of us handling a lot more projects. And so that's, and we also had a really nice office, which I really lament we had to give up because of this great pandemic. Yeah.
Okay. Can you share a couple of sort of casting decisions that you're really proud of, that gave you a lot of satisfaction specifically?
Yeah, so I always say that I'm very proud of all the casting decisions. I start by saying that because I really am, and I never remember names. But let's say recently, Vijay Varma in Gully Boy, that was a good one because he was very on point. Siddhant Chaturvedi, of course, but Vijay was Siddhant, everyone was involved with from our producer to our team, everyone was sort of involved in it. But Vijay was just a very fluid entry. The other day I was talking to some other people and I said, even on Wake Up Sid, Namit Das and Shikha Talsania, who both went on to do such interesting, amazing stuff.
Yes.
That was pretty good. Our cast, our ensemble in Thappad I really liked. I was very proud of all the women. Dia, Mirza, even Pavel, who's not a woman, but the husband, that worked out very well. Who else was in Thappad? Gitika Ulyan, who played the person who worked in Tapsi's house. I don't know if you've seen Thappad.
Yes, I have.
So that was a really nice collection of people. And Made in Heaven, I feel every episode we had some great performances.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was also good.
Let's come a little bit to what kind of advice would you have for youngsters who want to come into films, and now with the industry having developed quite a bit, are thinking of getting into casting specifically and becoming involved with casting themselves. What do they need? What kind of preparation should they have? What are the sort of steps they can take?
To become a casting director or to be in a casting team, you know, a very important thing. Fateh, I'm in the middle of a chat. A very important thing is to know that you're going to get into it because you enjoy the process, because it's challenging, exciting. Because I think it's really exploded. The industry has really exploded and become very being a casting director and casting and working on stuff is very I mean, there are a lot of opportunities now. You got to be very sure. You got to be very sure about the fact that you want to do this because you enjoy doing it, not because you just need a job. You have to be up to date with whatever's happening around you in terms of film. And when I say happening around you, I don't mean gossip, because that's a large chunk of our thing. You know? There's no gossip, no glamour. It's like casting is a room with a camera and a tripod, and some post-production transferring stuff onto hard drives and repeatedly doing the same scene with different actors. So to constantly be excited about just doing the same scene with different people. And it also involves direction, but not over direction. It involves understanding the person who's standing in front of you, where they're coming from, accepting their performance, helping them, tweaking them, but not overriding them. Nudging them, guiding them, because we're basically there. It's a very symbiotic thing with actors. We're there to help actors. It's not charity, but we're there to help actors get work, and they're there to help us finish our job. So it's very symbiotic, and respecting actors, respecting the work they do, respecting the effort they're putting in. All these things add up to doing a good job. And have I digressed a little? Have I started talking?
No, not at all. But I do have a couple of questions related to your answer and my previous question. Because I don't know, maybe I'm not up to date myself, but as far as I know, and when I went to film school, there isn't really a casting module in any film school program. So I suppose the closest one can get to is, as you very rightly said, expose yourself to as much cinema and reading as possible, and perhaps take some cues from your direction module or directing module that you did at school. So what about academically? Would you recommend or be somebody taking a particular course, or would that sort of be deprioritized, and is it perhaps better to volunteer and intern at a casting company to sort of really get the hang of things?
No, you said it, Karthik. You have to, interning is the best way to figure out how things work. But, I didn't intern. I was thrown into the deep end. So you can actually even do it without interning, as long as you have, I always say, as long as you have a camera, tripod, and a little space to do these auditions. And now it's become much simpler. I speak like someone ancient, but when we started off, like, people didn't have mobile phones.
Right.
So something as basic as that. Forget all this internet and Skype. So you can, I feel you can start off, but it's good to have a little bit of work experience in the field. Even if it's just direction, even if you're just aiding on set, you'll figure it out. It's not rocket science.
Right.
Then it's up to you. It's up to your imagination. It's up to your knowledge. It's up to the database that you slowly but surely will build if you get into this industry. I have to say that it's also, when I started working in casting, I never earned enough to actually pay my rent. But now you are your job as a casting director, you can support yourself. If you do a good job and an honorable job and a resilient job, you can support yourself and look after yourself and survive, basically. So
Okay.
things have changed. It's a very recognized department now,
Sure.
mercifully.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And obviously now the most obvious question, because you're such a sought after casting director and you've been doing it for so long successfully, you are the right person to give some advice to the millions and millions of starry-eyed people, flocking Bombay to become actors. Any advice for young acting aspirants?
So I've done a bunch of talks recently, as I was telling you, Karthik, and so I've actually heard advice that other casting directors have also given actors. So I'm going to just combine everything
Sure.
and say they've all said, and I agree with them, keep working on your craft. There's no glamour. Forget all that. Forget fame. Forget that'll come if it has to. That's written or not written. It is a bit. I worked on a film called Luck by Chance, so that does exist. It's not 100%. Sadly, not only 100% hard work that will lead you to fame and fortune, but if you want to be an actor, then commit to the process and keep working on your craft. Do theater, do workshops, but keep on at it. No role should be too small for you, is the other thing. I mean, you'll decide, you'll know what I'm saying when you start pursuing your dream. But no role should be too small for you. And that's the only way you'll really enjoy the whole process. And try and get as much experience as possible, because that will help you build. I always use Rajkumar Rao's example, who's such a fine actor, who went to FTII and then did a bunch of supporting roles in many films, and very well. Like each role was beautifully handled. And
Right.
you know, look where he is today, and may he continue to do good work. Yeah.
Okay. And absolute final question. If you are at liberty, could you share a couple of upcoming projects that you're excited about, that you've been involved in?
Yeah, I always forget, so I'm going to fumble a bit. Yeah, a lot of stuff went on hold, so, and it
Yeah.
started off again. But we have, I say we because now we're a team.
Sure.
We have Tufan should release next month. Actually, Tufan is a boxing film from
Yes.
Excel Entertainment stable. Nice, with Rakesh Omprakash Mehra. And then there's a show for Amazon that's in post production called Fallen, which is a cop kill. It's a thriller. It's a thriller set in Rajasthan, which is where you are right now, actually.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's another show called The Actress for Netflix, which is also a suspenseful, glamorous sort of thriller thing, which stars, but see, I didn't cast her, but stars Madhuri Dixit. We did the rest of all the speaking characters in those many episodes. Then there's a film that's straight for Netflix called Cobalt Blue, which is a book that was written by Sachin Kundalkar when he was 21, and now it's been made into a film 20 years later and being directed by him.
Okay.
So yeah, that's an interesting one. I'm looking forward to that as well. And yeah, there should be some other stuff, but I can't remember too. Yeah.
So before I let you go, finally, how are you sort of dealing with the pandemic, and especially in terms of work? You're working remotely, or what's happening?
Yeah, we're working remotely. Yeah, like for example, here's another job we did. Call My Agent is a show on Netflix, and we did the Indian version, and we did the entire casting of the show online.
Okay.
So there was a lot of auditions that were, fortunately, along with the pandemic, we also have all this tech. So people shot auditions, sent them, we got them to redo it, or we did Zoom tests or whatever. So we've been managing, we're pre-production. It's the shooting chaps who have a really tough time, because that really exposes you to the dangers of this virus. So,
yeah, but sorry to interrupt you, and correct me if I'm wrong. You must miss the physical, the physical aspect of an audition, right? I mean, even for me, when I teach online now, and thank God for the tech, like you said, it's at least possible and it's been facilitated. But I miss having that one-on-one physical interaction with my students. And similarly, I'm guessing that you. Are these online auditions do you miss not being there in the room present physically?
Sometimes, not all the time. I feel there's a lot of stuff we manage online where I feel like here's the thing. It's a two-pronged thing. Sometimes I'm almost grateful that the poor actor doesn't have to chug along in Bombay, fighting traffic and the bad weather, to come in and audition for a small scene, and they can just send it to us. And if it's good, it's good. And if it's bad, we can ask them to redo it. And but it's for the more nuanced roles. I really miss the interaction, and we do it on Zoom. But I know it's temporary. I mean, I'm being positive, and I know we'll come back to that. But I think we will change a lot of things, because I feel it's unfair to make people schlep all over town for work. There's a lot of stuff we can streamline now and just focus on the more complex auditions face to face.
Correct.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. Well, Nandini, thank you so much for your time. It's been lovely chatting, and you've given us a lot of food for thought and a lot of information. I hope a lot of youngsters watch this. That's the whole idea.
Yes, that would be great. Yeah.
So thank you very much. Stay safe. All the best, and I'll see you soon, hopefully.
Thanks, Karthik. It was great chatting to you. Very on point. And yes, I hope lots of people watch this.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.